Okay, generals, this concludes our study of biology and in specific, the scientific method. Remember, we are still celebrating homecoming this week, Teacher Appreciation Week, and we're working really diligently to eliminate bullying in our school and community and world. Today we're going to focus in on identifying variables. Our objective is to identify independent, dependent, and control variables. This lesson was brought to us by a teacher from the Smart Exchange. So, how do we identify variables? You should pull out your notes from yesterday and see if you can remember the definition for dependent variable, independent variable, and control variable. Pause the video until everyone has thought of the answer. Okay, now using your notebook file, click on each answer and let's look at them. Remember, dependent variable is the variable that you measure in an experiment. The independent variable is the one that you are manipulating in an experiment or changing. The controls are the variables that you keep, that you're keeping the same. So, if you didn't have that written down, pause the video until everyone has written these notes. Okay, now let's apply those definitions to an experiment or a experimental design. So let's say we wanted to know which brand of sponge could absorb the most liquid. Using this information below, go back to the notebook file and move them to where it represents the dependent variable, or basically which one is answering each of these statements and what would be the controls that are left. Pause the video until you've come up with your answer. Okay, let's look at the answers. Well, the dependent variable is the one that we are measuring. So again, you should have had this moved up to measuring. And in this case, the dependent variable is the amount of liquid absorbed, because that's the one that we are actually measuring. So this should have been moved up. And the independent variable is the one that we are changing. So again, changing should have been moved to that line. And in this case, the independent variables is the brand of sponge. So the controls are the type of liquid, the color of sponge, the size of sponge, and the room temperature. Those are all things that we would control or keep constant. Let's keep going. Okay, now we're going to look at two scenarios and highlight the dependent variable and draw a circle around the independent variable. And then brainstorm with a partner some controls that you would keep for each experiment. Here's the first one. There will be a statistically significant difference in graduation rates of at-risk high school seniors who participate in an intensive study program as opposed to at-risk high school seniors who do not participate in the intensive study program. Again, pause the video as you go to the notebook file and highlight the dependent variable and draw a circle around the independent variable. If you do not have the ability to open up the Smart Notebook file, then on your paper, write what would be the independent variable and the dependent variable, as well as what you brainstormed that you would keep control over or keep the same in the experiment. Unpause the video when you are done. Okay, you should have highlighted for dependent at-risk high school seniors who participate in, because that's what we would be measuring. But what we would not be measuring and what would be changing is the at-risk seniors who do not participate. You could have come up with several things as far as what you would control, as far as the school, how many schools, things like that could have been on your list. Okay, here's the second scenario. Highlight the dependent variable and draw a circle around the independent variable again. Talk with a partner about controls. Just like before, go to the notebook file if you are using this video as a help and highlight on the notebook file and circle on the actual notebook file. If you do not have access to the notebook file, then write it on your paper. Pause the video until everyone has answered. Okay. The actual dependent would be the counted number of people passing by who looked up, because that's what we're measuring. The independent, or the thing that we would change, is the number of persons that we would have on the sidewalk. Again, you could brainstorm some of the controls as far as the location, the time of day, keeping that the same consistently throughout the experiment. Could have been on your list. Okay, now let's do a little activity. Again, go back to the notebook file and try to figure out which of these items would be dependent and independent. The first one is graphed on the x-axis. There should only be one of these in a good experiment. The cause, you control it, you measure it. The effect, graphed on the y-axis. If you do not have the ability to use the actual notebook file, go ahead and write on your paper what will fall under dependent and what will fall under independent. Pause the video until everyone is done. Okay, now if you use a notebook file, you would have noticed if you try to put like graphed on the x-axis, and let's say that you discovered, well, that should be my independent, because x-axis represents independent. If you plug it in there, it actually eats it perfectly, or hits the zooming target. There should only be one of these in a good experiment. Maybe you felt like what should be one of these is dependent. If you did that, that's letting you know you got it wrong. It really is independent. There should always only be one independent thing that you're changing in the experiment. The cause, or what is the result? Well, that's equivalent to dependent. See, wrong. Independent. Again, if you got it wrong, it will spiral. If you get it right, you can put it in. You control it, meaning that you actually have some input on it. And what you change, you are having input on. You measure it. That's equivalent to dependent. The effect, and graphed on the y-axis, dependent. Good job if you got all of those right. Let's keep going with some more activities to practice identifying variables. These are some questions. Read the question, select whether it's A or B, and then we're going to erase to reveal the answer. Pause the video until everyone has answered. Okay. Did you think the controlled variable was the length of the wire or the voltage? If you said the voltage, you got it right. Let's try another one. Which is a controlled variable? Pause the video until you have answered. Again, go back to the notebook file if you have it to answer. Okay. If you said concentration of starch solution, you got it right. Let's do another one. Pause the video until everyone has answered. I hope you noticed that this was a multiple answer problem, and the answer was A and B. Good job. Last one. This is only a one option. Pause the video until everyone has answered. And the answer was D. The longer wire, the higher the resistance. Not bad. Have a great week, General. Talk to you again next week.